Noah Bennett regarded his 30-acre woodland retreat as a sanctuary, a family legacy preserved, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. Yet when he returned after a year away, he found himself utterly speechless at what greeted him. 5 luxury cottages, outfitted with pools, fences, and a sign proclaiming Blue Pines Retreat. His once tranquil haven had been transformed into the epicenter of a battle over justice and rightful ownership. Noah reclined in his car seat as the winding road cut through a dense forest of towering pines. Late afternoon sunlight filtered through the leaves, scattering shifting patterns on the hood of his truck. The air was redolent with the scent of pine needles and damp earth, a stark contrast to the sterile urban environment he had left behind. This land was far more than a mere escape. It was his inheritance, a sprawling 30-acre woodland passed down through generations of his family. His father had often spoken of the property with deep reverence, recounting tales of its natural beauty and the peaceful life it promised, while his grandfather had spent his final years tending to it with quiet devotion. For Noah, this was not simply land, but a tangible connection to his roots, a place where he hoped to build a future far removed from the clamor of city life. The property included a charming yet slightly run-down ranch-style house nestled beside a bubbling stream. The house was surrounded by open meadows, clusters of wildflowers, and a forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. A small wooden bridge spanned the stream, leading to trails his grandfather had carved decades ago. Although the house required considerable repairs, Noah saw its potential and felt a surge of excitement at the thought of breathing new life into it. Over the past year, his demanding tech job in Seattle had kept him tethered to urban life, and his visits to the property had been infrequent. Now, blessed with the flexibility of a remote position, he resolved that it was time to settle permanently. It felt like the perfect moment to embrace his peaceful retreat and restore it to its former splendor. As he approached the house, the sight of its weathered exterior stirred mixed emotions. The once vibrant cedar siding had faded, and the roof bore the scars of countless seasons. Still, the structure stood strong, a testament to his grandfather's craftsmanship. After parking his truck, Noah stepped out and inhaled the crisp, revitalizing air that seemed a world away from his previous life. The next few weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of activity. Noah dedicated himself to repairs, fixing the roof, repainting the walls, and integrating modern utilities into the rustic home. Each day brought a fresh sense of accomplishment as he gradually felt truly at home. The land itself appeared to welcome him back. The streams sparkled in the sunlight, birds serenaded from the trees, and deer occasionally wandered into view. Yet the property was vast, and there remained unexplored corners. On his 3rd week back, Noah decided to explore further into his domain, beyond the familiar meadow and toward the distant tree line. He loaded his ATV with supplies and carried a map of the property boundaries his father had once shown him, a document marked with clear orange lines delineating his family's land. As the ATV roared to life, a surge of anticipation filled him. Here was his chance to reconnect with a place that had been a cherished part of his family legacy for decades. However, what he encountered beyond the tree line would soon morph his tranquil retreat into the setting of a legal and personal battle over rightful ownership. Noah navigated the bumpy trails as the cool forest air rushed past him. Gradually, the hum of the ATV subsided into the natural chorus of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. The trees grew denser and the terrain more rugged, instilling in him a heightened sense of adventure. This secluded part of the property had long remained untouched, a pure slice of wilderness belonging entirely to his family. Stopping at a clearing near the eastern boundary, he consulted his map. The orange markers his grandfather had installed, though slightly faded, still clearly indicated where his family's land ended and the outside world began. Then something unusual caught his eye, a wooden post that looked entirely out of place. Driven by curiosity, he edged closer until the trees yielded a sight that made his stomach churn. In the heart of his land stood a modern two-story cottage, complete with a freshly painted deck and a manicured lawn. A low fence enclosed the area, and a small sign near the gate read, "Blue Pines Retreat." His heart pounded as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. Who had constructed this, and for what purpose? His confusion deepened as he ventured further along the boundary line. To his disbelief, he discovered not one but 5 cottages scattered across the area. Each building was neatly fenced and bore signs indicating they were part of a rental retreat. The cottages featured pools, patios, and even gravel parking spaces. What had once been his family's cherished land was now a bustling commercial property. As he attempted to piece together the situation, Noah noticed movement near one of the cottages. A young couple was relaxing by the pool, laughing and enjoying their time. Approaching cautiously, he called out, "Excuse me," and the couple turned toward him. The man smiled, as if assuming Noah was part of the operation. "Oh, we rented this place for a long weekend. It's amazing, so peaceful and private. We found it on a vacation rental site." The repetition of vacation rental site in his mind made his tone tighten as he asked, "Do you know who owns this place?" The woman simply shrugged and replied, "We booked through someone named Karen. She handles the rentals. A lovely lady, very professional." Noah's thoughts raced back to Karen, a neighbor he had briefly met a year ago when she warmly welcomed him back to the area. At that time, she had been effusive in her compliments about his property and its beauty. Now, however, her involvement carried a much more sinister overtone. He asked for Karen's contact information, which the couple provided without hesitation. Taking a deep breath to steady his rising anger, Noah dialed the number. A cheerful voice answered, "This is Karen." When he inquired further about the cottages, Karen's tone was breezy, and Noah, clenching his teeth to mask his frustration, stated, "I'd like to discuss the cottages. Can we meet in a couple of days? I want to inspect them in detail before making any decisions." Karen agreed enthusiastically, scheduling a meeting. As he ended the call, his hands trembled, not with fear, but with determination. Over the next 2 days, Noah prepared for the confrontation. He contacted a local surveyor to verify the property lines and document the placement of the cottages. The survey results left no doubt. Every single structure was located on his land. With these indisputable findings in hand, he filed a report with the local authorities and retained a real estate attorney to draft a lawsuit. Karen's actions were not merely a breach of property rights. They were an overt attempt to profit from what did not belong to her. The cottages, the fencing, the landscaping, all were unauthorized. His attorney estimated that the financial damages, including the cost of dismantling the structures and restoring the land, could easily exceed $1.5 million. As the meeting day approached, Noah steeled himself for the legal battle ahead. Though he had the law on his side, Karen's audacity suggested she would not yield without a fight. This conflict was no longer solely about the cottages. It was about reclaiming his land and safeguarding his family's legacy. When the day finally arrived, Noah drove out to the cottages with his heart pounding, a mixture of anger and anticipation surging within him. He wasn't alone. Accompanying him were a property inspector, a local sheriff's deputy, and his attorney. Armed with irrefutable evidence of the illegal construction, he was determined to confront Karen over her blatant trespass. The gravel road leading to the cottages had been freshly smoothed, a clear sign of Karen's investment in her unauthorized venture. As he neared the cluster of cottages, he spotted Karen's sleek SUV parked near the largest building. Stepping out, she projected a confident, almost smug demeanor, dressed in a tailored blazer that exuded authority. Yet her expression faltered the moment she saw Noah standing with the officials. A flash of recognition and unease crossed her face. Noah recalled that, a year ago, Karen had been full of charm, gushing over the beauty of his land and expressing deep admiration for its tranquility. Now, however, her role in this unfolding debacle was unmistakably clear. Karen! Noah called out, prompting her to force a bright smile as she approached. What a surprise. I wasn't expecting you to bring company, she remarked. I thought it was only fair, Noah replied coolly, given what I've discovered about your little enterprise. Her smile froze, and she straightened her shoulders, attempting to maintain composure. I'm not sure what you mean. Everything here is perfectly legitimate. I've invested a great deal of time and money to create a retreat that people can enjoy. Noah motioned toward the sheriff's deputy, who handed Karen an official document. As she skimmed its contents, her expression darkened and her lips tightened with each line. This is a formal notice, Noah explained. You have 14 days to remove all structures from my property. Additionally, we've filed a lawsuit for damages exceeding $1.5 million. With deliberate emphasis, he added, moreover, the authorities are investigating this operation for potential tax evasion and illegal business activities. Karen's face flushed a deep red as she turned to the officials, her voice rising. This is absurd. I have every right to this land. My husband and I purchased it fair and square. I even have documentation to prove it. Noah's attorney interjected sharply. Then you won't mind showing it to us. Karen rummaged through her handbag, producing a set of papers that she thrust toward the attorney. After examining them, his frown deepened as he noted, these documents are highly suspect. They claim that Noah's father transferred ownership of this portion of the property to you before his passing. Yet, there is no record of this transaction in the county archives. Karen's voice grew shrill as she retorted, It's not my fault if the records were misplaced. This land is mine now, and I've done nothing wrong. Noah stepped forward calmly, but firmly. Karen, you've known all along that this land was never yours. The survey markers remain, the records are clear, and yet you built 5 cottages, advertised them, and started renting them out as if you owned the place. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's theft. Her composure crumbled further. You don't understand how much I've invested in this. Do you know how much money these cottages bring in? They're fully booked for the summer. Noah replied steadily. That's not my problem. What you've done is illegal, and now you're going to face the consequences. The sheriff then stepped forward in a measured tone. Ma'am, you will need to comply with this notice. Failure to do so will result in further legal action, including potential criminal charges. Karen's confident facade shattered entirely as she cast a venomous glare, declaring, This isn't over. Noah simply nodded. That's exactly where this is headed. As Karen stormed back to her SUV, Noah felt a sense of vindication. While the battle was far from over, he had won the first confrontation. Noah had anticipated that Karen would not back down easily, but he had not expected the lengths to which she would go. A few days later, his attorney informed him that Karen had officially filed a counterclaim. In her lawsuit, she accused Noah of defamation, harassment, and attempting to steal her lawfully acquired property. To his astonishment, the court accepted the dubious documents she had submitted, temporarily halting the removal of the cottages until the ownership dispute could be resolved. It's merely a delay tactic, his attorney Emily explained during a late-night strategy session. She knows those documents won't hold up under scrutiny, but by filing this counterclaim, she's buying time and putting pressure on you. In the ensuing days, Karen escalated her intimidation tactics. Passive-aggressive messages began to appear in his mailbox, and he noticed her SUV idling near his driveway on multiple occasions. Then, one evening, she arrived at his door accompanied by her attorney. Noah greeted them cautiously, his phone's recording app discreetly running in his pocket. Initially, Karen was surprisingly cordial, offering what she described as a reasonable solution. We don't need to drag this into a lengthy legal battle, she said with a forced smile. Here's my proposal. I'll pay you $200,000 upfront, and you let the cottages remain. You'll even receive a cut of the profits each month. It's a win-win for both of us. Her attorney nodded in agreement. The documents we've provided prove my legal claim to part of this land. Fighting this in court will be costly and time-consuming, with no guarantee of a better outcome." Noah raised an eyebrow, his voice calm but firm. "The only documents I recognize are those that prove this land has belonged to my family for generations. I'm not interested in making a deal with someone who built on my property without permission." Karen's smile faltered, replaced by a flash of irritation. "Fine. How about $500,000? That's more than generous considering your land was simply lying unused before I brought value to it." Noah stood his ground. "This isn't about money. It's about respecting what does not belong to you. My answer is no." Karen's attorney leaned in, his tone shifting to a veiled threat. "I'd advise you to think carefully before rejecting this offer. A prolonged legal battle could get ugly, and who knows what might happen while we wait for the courts to decide." Noah's jaw tightened. "Is that a threat?" The attorney quickly backpedaled with a chuckle. "Of course not, just food for thought." Noah then held the door open and said, "You've had your say. Now leave." The tension was palpable as Karen and her attorney departed, yet Noah knew this encounter was only the beginning of her desperate tactics. 2 days later, Noah returned home to find his property in chaos. The windows of his house were shattered, and the front door hung askew on its hinges. Inside, furniture was overturned and several items destroyed. Not a burglary, but clearly an act of intimidation. Immediately, Noah contacted the police and provided them with footage from a security camera he had discreetly installed on a nearby tree. The video captured a car arriving late at night, with 2 masked figures exiting to vandalize the property. The car's license plate was clearly visible, giving the police a solid lead. Within hours, authorities identified and apprehended one of the perpetrators, who under questioning admitted he had been hired to cause the damage, and that the person paying him was Karen, acting on the advice of her attorney. This revelation only added fuel to the already mounting legal case. Karen's attempt to intimidate Noah had spectacularly backfired. In addition to the civil lawsuit, she now faced criminal charges for property damage, harassment, and attempted coercion. As Noah reviewed the updated legal filings with Emily, her grim satisfaction was evident. "She's finished," she stated. "Between the forged documents, the illegal construction, and now this act of vandalism, there's no way Karen escapes serious consequences." For the first time in weeks, Noah felt a deep sense of relief. Although the legal battle was far from over, the tide was finally turning in his favor. The fallout from Karen's actions was swift and extensive. Her attempt at intimidation had not only strengthened Noah's case, but also exposed her reckless disregard for the law. As the court hearings progressed, it became evident that Karen's position was crumbling under the weight of incontrovertible evidence. The first decisive blow came when the judge examined the so-called transfer documents Karen had submitted. Forensic analysis revealed that the papers were forgeries, hastily fabricated to bolster her claim. Her attorney, complicit in the scheme, was disbarred and faced criminal charges of his own, while Karen was charged with fraud and tampering with evidence, adding to her ever-mounting legal troubles. The court ordered an immediate halt to all commercial activities on the property. The cottages, once bustling with guests, now stood empty, a stark reminder of Karen's overreach. With criminal charges piling up and the financial strain of the lawsuits mounting, Karen's once assured demeanor evaporated, while Noah began to see the first glimmers of justice. Ultimately, the court ruled decisively in Noah's favor, declaring Karen's constructions illegal and ordering her to remove the cottages at her own expense. In addition, she was required to restore the damaged land to its original state by replanting trees and repairing the disrupted soil. Compensation for damages, legal fees, and punitive charges eventually totaled over $2 million, a crushing blow for Karen. The repercussions did not end there. Karen's reputation within the community was irreparably tarnished. As news of the case spread, Neighbors who had once admired her ambition began to share their own grievances. Stories of her manipulative tactics and overreaching entitlement painted a clear picture of someone who had long relied on intimidation to achieve her goals. In contrast, Noah found himself gaining respect and support from the local community. Many neighbors reached out, offering help with the restoration of his property. Local volunteers joined him in clearing debris left behind by the cottages and preparing the land for replanting. One neighbor even donated seedlings from their own garden to help replace the lost trees. Though the restoration process was neither quick nor easy, it proved immensely rewarding. Noah worked tirelessly alongside the volunteers, gradually returning the property to its former splendor. The sight of new trees taking root and wildlife returning filled him with a profound sense of accomplishment. Beyond the physical renewal, he discovered a renewed sense of purpose. The ordeal had tested his resolve and forced him to stand firm in the face of adversity. Though the battle had been long and grueling, he emerged stronger and more determined to protect what was rightfully his. Karen's downfall, in turn, served as a stark cautionary tale to the community about the consequences of arrogance and entitlement. Her desperate bid to cling to a facade of success cost her everything: her finances, her reputation, and even her home. Rumors soon circulated that she had left the area to live with a relative out of state, far removed from the community she once tried to dominate. For Noah, the conclusion of this ordeal was more than a personal victory. It was a powerful reminder of the importance of accountability and standing up for what is right. One evening, as he sat on his porch watching the sun set over the newly restored land, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The forest, quiet and resilient, seemed to echo the lessons of the past months. That justice, though sometimes slow, always prevails when one fights for it. Standing at the edge of his property, with early morning mist curling around the freshly planted trees, Noah watched as the land, once marred by illegal construction and reckless intrusion, began to resemble its old self again. The vibrant greenery and gentle rustle of leaves spoke of a triumphant return to peace, a victory not only over Karen, but over everything she had attempted to take from him. The legal battle had been arduous, stretching over months and testing his patience and determination, but in the end, justice had prevailed. Karen's elaborate schemes to claim the land and profit from it crumbled under the weight of truth and law. The cottages were dismantled, leaving no trace of the unauthorized retreat, and the scars on the land were slowly healing, tree by tree, with the support of neighbors and volunteers. As Noah reflected on the journey, he marveled at how much he had learned about himself. What had begun as a confrontation over property had evolved into a larger struggle for legacy, integrity, and accountability. He had stood firm against manipulation and intimidation, refusing to be bullied out of what was rightfully his. Karen's downfall ultimately served as a stark lesson to the community. With her attorney disbarred and criminal charges looming, she had all but vanished from the area, leaving behind a legacy of shame. In contrast, Noah reaped unexpected rewards. Neighbors who had once been strangers rallied around him, forming bonds of solidarity that extended well beyond his property's borders. They demonstrated the true meaning of community, showing that even amidst conflict, people could unite in support. In doing so, Noah deepened his connection to his family's legacy. His grandfather's stories of the land, infused with pride and responsibility, now resonated with him more than ever. This was not just a piece of property, it was an integral part of his identity, a reminder of the values his family had instilled: resilience, respect, and the importance of protecting what truly matters. As he walked back toward his house, Noah paused by the bubbling stream, watching sunlight dance across the water. He experienced a sense of closure and accomplishment that transcended the mere restoration of the land. He had reclaimed not only his property, but a part of himself, his strength, his resolve, and his deep connection to nature. The legal precedents set by his case garnered attention far beyond the local community, inspiring others to stand up against overreach and illegal activities. Noah even agreed to speak at a town hall meeting, sharing his experience and urging others to remain vigilant about their property rights. Now, as the seasons changed and the trees he had planted grew tall, Noah looked forward with optimism. He planned to remain on the land, continuously nurturing it and honoring the legacy passed down through generations. The forest, once a battleground of conflict, had become a symbol of resilience, its beauty and strength mirrored in the man who fought to protect it. On quiet evenings, as he sat on his porch listening to rustling leaves and chirping crickets, Noah was reminded of a simple yet profound truth. When you stand firm for what is right, even the toughest battles can be won, and the ensuing peace is worth every struggle.